Hello and welcome to the Fusion 360 tutorial making a cube, part 2 kind of. I'm just going to go over one of my biggest pet peeves when making a part, and that is this center point right here. So I'll show you kind of why I don't like it, and then I'll show you how I usually start out my sketches. So let's say I want to draw a circle, and I want to draw it on, let's do this face right here. Don't worry about how to right now, just, get the general idea. I want to put it right in the middle. Boop. Well, okay, I have the circle now, but where do I reference it from? I want to reference it from this point. So in order to reference it and put it right in the middle, I have to make two midpoint dots, select these two, make it horizontal, make it vertical, and then finally, after I dimension it, I can create and make a hole. Now, okay, well that wasn't too hard, but let's say I want to do the same thing on the other side. This face right here. Circle, go over here. Oh, well I want to make it in the middle. So now I got to make a point, and I got to go through the whole process again. Alright, there, that's what we call the problem definition or something in engineering. I didn't pay attention. Okay. So now that you see what the problem is, there's a way to fix this that I like quite a bit, and that is to go back to the original sketch and change where your base point is right here. So if we go back to the original sketch here, this is our 30 by 30 cube. That's great. But we're going to redo it. We'll redo it from the ground up. So to select objects, what would that be? Left click and drag. When selecting, the direction that you drag makes a difference. So if you go this way, only objects that are totally enclosed will be selected. If you go the other way, any object that the box touches will be selected. So this way, it only selects the dot. This way, it selects both sides of the rectangle. Either way, select everything, delete everything, and we're going to start again with a new square. If you'll notice down here, I didn't delete the extrude. That's okay. I can redo that afterwards, and I might be able to show you kind of how to fix warning problems. So you come in here like we did last time. You make a corner here, you make a corner here. Click, click. And we have to define it. So right now, we're moving around all over the place. So we'll define 30 by 30. All right, just like we had before. So escape from that. That was the D button, dimensioning to do that. Now, you see we're still blue here. Well, why is that? Well, because it doesn't know where to put it. It doesn't know where it is relative to everything else. So let's bring all this in a little. I use the mouse wheel to scroll in and out. I don't know if I mentioned that. It's kind of important. And we'll get rid of that, so it's just a big old screen here. So we put it roughly in the middle. Now, I have this point up here because I use it quite a bit. You probably don't. So go to Sketch, and then we'll bring it down to Point. So we want to put the point on the midpoint of this line. So when you see that triangle, that means midpoint. I don't know why, it just does. Alright, so I happen to be very close with that actually. But yeah, you can see those points are black, which means they're fixed, and they're fixed at the midpoint. So now we get into a little more complicated stuff, defining relationships. This isn't too difficult, and this actually leads in pretty well to later topics. But if I click this point, and then control click this other point, let's try that again. Oh, I pressed the Windows button. Control, click, control, click. Now if I right click, I can make those coincident, so right on top of each other, which we don't want. I can make them fixed or unfixed. I try to avoid that like the plague, because fixing things is it's kind of a crude way to do stuff. It just makes them exact relative to each other. They keep the same position relative to each other, and that can lead to problems later. So control click click horizontal vertical, and it'll make it either horizontal or vertical based on where it's at. So you want to make it roughly horizontal and vertical before you align it. But if it's down here, it should work just fine. So same thing, control click, horizontal vertical. Now that center point is right in the middle there. So, okay. Well, it didn't update. Why not? It didn't update because we have to redefine what the extrude is. So if you roll, you can roll this back and you can see it's yellow. Generally how I fix this the quickest way, double click on it, and then you look over here, oh, we're missing a profile. Well, okay. So we tell it to use this profile. And there you go, fixed it. If that doesn't work for you, you can delete it and make a new one up here, but redefining it's just fine as far as I'm concerned. Okay. So you might be thinking, all right, that's great, we spent all that time, but why? Well, let's try making that same circle again. And we put it right here. Look at that. We can right click, and make that vertical. So now it's vertical no matter what. That's why I like to do it. It provides a good frame of reference. And then you can add a point here and make it like that, just like we did with the other one. But I just like it because then you're not adding points everywhere and cluttering up your sketches a little bit. I haven't done CNC machining. Perhaps having the center on the corner of a shape is better for that, but I don't know. I don't like it. All right. One last thing. We can make that point in the absolute middle if you want. This I don't usually worry too much about because how many times are you making an exact cube? But it's probably not a bad practice to have. So the way you do that is you go back to just your cube. I deleted the extra sketch I made, and I double click the extrude button to edit it again to change it. And then on the direction, I do symmetric. So you have symmetric and you have two sides. Two sides just means that one might not be symmetric, whereas symmetric means they're the same. So to make a 15 millimeter cube, if it's the same on both sides, you need to divide by 2, make it 15. Now, if we go to place that same circle on here, there we go. Look at that. We can put it right on the projection of the center point. So all we need is one dimension to define that circle. I like that quite a bit. Look how clean that is. Look how clean that sketch is. It's beautiful. I didn't have to project. I didn't have to put any extra dots on there. It's perfect. Okay. Well, that's about all I had to cover in that video. In the next video, we'll be looking at probably how to revolve, make like a sphere. Go over some more basic shapes and some basic functions that you can do. Okay, and then the last thing we have is, I didn't mention this, is how to save it. So you get this version description thing going on here. You can just have it user saved. If you do that, it's just going to appear, there's not going to be a description associated with it. But if I put, let's say, oh God. Centering midpoint. Now what that does is if you go to show data panel, saving right now, there we go. So there's two versions. There's the first version, then there's this version. So if I click on the version, so you can see what the description of it is right here. That way if you get real far into designing a part, let's say you've worked on it for a month and you realize, hey, I want to go back to what it was last week, you can just go to the version and say, oh hey, go back here. Right now it doesn't matter very much, but it's just a good thing to keep in mind. Alright, that's all I have for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.